Hey guys, it's Taylor, and I am back today with a review of the new Karen Marie Moning book that I have been waiting for and anticipating for what seems like a lifetime. Good old High Voltage. Look at that cover. Isn't that just amazing? My best friend actually ordered her and myself a copy and then found signed copies, and so I actually was given a signed copy. Here, I'll show you. Sorry, I know there's a shadow. Anyways, super excited. Anyways, so for anybody that's watching this video and doesn't know about Karen Marie Moning or specifically the Fever series, High Voltage is part of the Fever series, but is a little bit different. The first group of books was told mainly from the perspective of a character, which for the majority of the series was the main character named Mac. And since time has gone on and the books have developed, things like that, this is really the first book told from another character, Dani's perspective. Dani's my favorite character, just because we got to see her grow from a young age to a young adult, and her personality is more appealing to mine. But this series is an adult fantasy. When I go into my Barnes & Noble, which I'm sure it's like this with any Barnes & Noble, it's in the romance section, which really bothers me, but I would not consider this series or Karen Marie Moning generally as an author to be a romance author, but just don't overlook it because of the genre it's put in, I guess I would say, at bookstores, because it definitely, any kind of romantic relationship is kind of second tier to the main plot of the story, I think. But anyways, to give you a kind of a synopsis of the entire story, it's about a girl that at the very beginning her sister dies, and to find out what happened to her goes to Ireland and pretty much finds this entire world that she knew nothing about. Very typical, but let me just say the story is not typical, it's very different. And so she finds out all kinds of different beings and creatures and how that somehow is intertwined with her sister's death, and goes on a journey. And of course there is a romantic interest, a love interest along the way, and how that intertwines with each other. And so I want to say that this is the 6th or 8th book in the series. Like I said, along the way, Mac, her path comes across another character named Dani. And Dani, when she first enters the books, is 14. And in this book, High Voltage, she is 22. If you know, y'all know. If you've read it, you know what I mean. And so anyways, and so it just follows her journey then at that point. And there are fairies and different kinds of beasts and things like that. It's not your typical vampires and werewolves. No disrespect to those books. It's just, it is different, and there's a lot of Irish culture, which I think is really cool in it. So I definitely recommend this book. I give this book a 5 out of 5 stars easily. But I'm going to get into the actual book itself now. So if you haven't read it, don't want any spoilers, please click away and come back later after you've read it. Or if you're just one of those people, that's fine getting spoilers and you'll read it anyways, go ahead and keep watching. But other than that, if you don't want spoilers, please do not continue to watch. But subscribe before you go, though. But then come back. You get what I'm saying. Bye, guys. Okay, guys, let's get into this book. Before I started filming, I went on Goodreads and looked at some of the reviews just to kind of get some different perspectives. There hasn't been a lot of reviews put on YouTube that I've seen, so I couldn't really watch too many of those. I really only was able to find one. So I just went and looked at reviews, and it seems like people either love or hate this book, and there's not a lot of in between. and I get both sides of it. I think people are justified in not liking this book, and I of course feel like people are justified in liking it, obviously, because I loved it. But I had to, actually, this is the first time I wrote notes down and everything like that, so that way I could do a better review. So the book starts out, and Dani's with Shazam, and she's like in a graveyard, of course, because it's Dani. And Ryden just like rolls up and it's like, all right, we're out. You're going to be on your own. That's about it. So you find out first thing in the book that Dani's going to be completely alone except for Shazam, and that everyone is leaving her. And that was really off-putting to me. I was very sad. I didn't know if that was going to be the whole book or whatever. So I struggled to keep reading it because I was very concerned about that. So then, well, I shouldn't even say that. Let me back up. The first, like, chapter scene is very ambiguous. There is a male character, and it sets the scene by saying that he's walking around outside. There's, like, somewhere at home, there's, like, some woman that you can tell he doesn't really care about necessarily. And all of a sudden, this, like, rock thing comes flying out of the middle of nowhere, like right directly towards him, and on it is written, "I'm okay, and that's it. And that's the scene. So you have no idea what that has to do with literally anything. And that's the first thing you read in the book. So then it starts out with the whole thing of Ryden leaving, and he says that he's taking everybody with him, so she will be alone other than Shazam. You read a couple chapters in and find out that Mac's parents are still there, and that Dani's kind of working alongside Mac's mom in trying to find homes and stuff for the kids that have been abandoned throughout the war and things like that, which I thought some of those scenes were kind of cool, just because obviously Dani knows how it feels. So I thought it was cool to see her, like, you know, being a hero, but like in her own version of it, obviously. So, but other than that, it's just really her and Shazam running the streets, as you can imagine, and you have no idea when anybody's going to come back or anything like that. It's a complete and utter mess. Well, while she's completely alone, she's tracking these men that have done wrong and things like that, and somehow gets into an altercation with them, tries to like track them, and they drug her, and they take her to this building, and she finds where these gods, which I'll get back to the god thing in a second, are taking these people. She comes out of it, thank goodness, probably because of her metabolism, and ends up killing them. But she does find out a little bit more about this god that's stealing people. I don't know if it's just me, and I've talked to my best friend about this also. Did the god thing just come out of the middle of nowhere? I feel like that's so random. And I feel like Karen just kind of thrust that upon us, and we were just supposed to be like, okay, that makes sense. I was very thrown by that. I'm still very thrown by that. I still feel like it was integrated into the book very strangely. It was kind of just like dipped under the radar, and it was like, pause, wait, we were given so much backstory on the other different, like the Fae, the Unseelie, the Seelie, even the beasts, and like all of a sudden it was like, oh, there's gods, and we're supposed to act like we just knew about that. I thought that was super strange. But then, let's see, she's, you know, walking around the streets like she always is. That's pretty much the theme of like the entire first part, when she's, her and Shazam are still alone, and sees like a flicker and something falling, and of course Dani being Dani, she catches it, and it ends up being some type of card with a spell on it. It cuts her finger, so there is blood drawn, and the trick is that she's granted one wish, but then we all know how magic works, that there's always, you know, a catch. And so the guy or the god or whatever, we haven't really figured out what his whole deal is, told her that he had granted her wish, but she never made one, so that was very confusing. Well, so her and Shazam go to the sanctuary, which is one of her spots within the city that she hangs out, and a beast all of a sudden just shows up out of the middle of nowhere. Of course, she has no idea which beast it is. It could be Barons, it could be Raiden, it could be Lore, it could be one of the other 9. You have no idea. And so she takes care of it. And the next thing that you really find out is that she has a dream that Raiden is writing things on her forehead, kind of putting a spell on her. And she goes to sleep for like days. Wakes up and the 9 are back and they're rebuilding Chester's like nothing ever happened, like they hadn't been gone for 2 years. So of course, you know, Dani, she shows up at Chester's and she's pissed. And everybody's glad to see her and everything, but she, you know, talks to Lore, is trying to figure out where they've been, why they left her. And they're acting just super nonchalant about it. And of course she sees Raiden and they like fight and all that different other kind of stuff, which I really do love to me they have a different love-hate relationship than Mac and Barons do. And so, they're like, their whole, tit for tat thing keeps on going throughout the book because they both know that they love each other, but for some reason they're just both so hard-headed. But I do have to say, Raiden in this book makes it very, very apparent his feelings towards her. It's like now he's like, I don't have anything holding me back. I don't care. I'll feel however I want to feel and tell everybody about it. So, let's see what's next. She finds out that really Lore has been there the entire time, following her around. So when she got attacked by those guys and everything, Lore was there. He just was, you know, didn't interfere unless she was really about to die. But he cut it close quite a few times. In all this, Dani has this black pain, electricity, it's very confusing thing that's going from her hand all the way up the rest of her body that she thinks is a side effect from her stabbing a hunter and killing a hunter. And it gives her power, so we all know Dani, she loves the power, but she doesn't know the consequence of it. So throughout the book, it keeps spreading, and every time she uses it, it gets worse, things like that. So once they get over the fact that Barons and Lore and all them have been gone the entire time, they're really trying to figure that out and are concerned also about these gods that came out of the middle of nowhere pretty much. And so, let's see. They go through, also, let me backtrack a little bit. While everybody's gone, you find out that the bookstore has disappeared. And so once Raiden comes back, they go and investigate it because I assumed that Raiden and the rest of the 9 were with Mac and Barons, and you find out that they were not. So he didn't know that the bookstore was gone, which I thought was weird because I don't understand why Lore didn't tell him. Well, I guess, okay, well, I do know, but at the time I didn't understand. So they go to the site, and all of a sudden, of course, he gets a text from Barons telling him to get off the site. It looks fishy. So you find out that Mac and Barons have moved the bookstore to like a cloud, which I really did think was kind of funny, but since it was Mac that did it, it makes sense because she's still like the girly, you know, whimsical character of the entire book series. And so you get a little bit of glimpse of where they've been, but it was so short-lived. But while she's there, she gets a letter that was actually written from Dancer before he died. So she goes home and reads it and finds out that, you know, Dancer, which I think the whole Dancer and Dani thing is a joke, but it is what it is. That Raiden actually went to Dancer and gave him an option of becoming immortal, and he said no. So I think it like resolved a whole bunch of feelings that Dani was having because she feels bad for loving them both, especially now that Dancer is dead. I think that's what's like kept them from being together. And so that, you know, kind of one added to her affection towards Raiden that he would do that, and then resolve some feelings that made her like not as guilty, which I was like, okay, here we go. Now we can get to it. But by this point, she's like completely covered in this black, and we find out that if you touch her, Other than Shazam, if you touch her, you pretty much like explode. And so it's not like they can physically be together, of course. And so you find out that they can mind link, that pretty much the tattoo that she has, if Raiden gets the same, they can mind link and pretty much in their minds do the same thing that they can physically in the real world. It's like the ultimate bonding. And so I thought that was interesting that she brought that thing from way on in the book series that we know from Mac and Barron's and them two, and that came full circle. I thought that was pretty cool. And then let's see. So then they find that this one-eyed monster tries to attack her and steal her soul, and she uses her power to break free barely, and that really almost solidifies her entire whatever this is with the black and the electricity and stuff. And so they finally find out that all of this is being done underneath, these gods are underneath the Abbey. So the 9 go to, with of course Dani, go to the Abbey to fight this like one-eyed monster god thing, and you realize really quickly on that the beast, the 9, can't kill it. And so they've made Dani promise the 9 and the She-Seers that she will not try to help, which of course in the end we all know that she's going to help, and she's probably the only one that can kill it. So she uses all of her power, and I have a feeling that really this is going to turn her into a hunter. And so she uses all of her power to kill this god, and she does. But then it instantly snapshots in, and she's flying, and she's a hunter. So this power is officially, every time she used it, slowly and slowly and slowly turned her into a hunter, and now she officially is one. So then she's flying around with the hunter she thought she killed, and you find out that it's Shazam, which I did not see coming. That blew my mind. I was like so thrown by that. Then you find out that she of course she's still Dani, so she's worried about Raiden. Now that she figured out that Shazam's really a hunter and has been the entire time, she wants to get a message. So what does she do? She writes on like a moon rock, "I'm okay, I'll be home soon," whatever. And Shazam, as a hunter, throws it, but back in time, so he could get the message. And so you find out that Dani can be a hunter half the time and a person half the time. Because of course I was I was just like devastated that she would have to be a hunter, even that she's excited about it, but it's like then there's no Raiden, and that makes me sad. So finally she is able to turn back into a human after like months of her learning and things like that. Goes to Chester's to find Raiden just like a complete basket case, and he thinks he's imagining her when she walks into his room, and it takes a while for her to convince him. And then once they do, they finally have like their big like love scene and all that different other kind of stuff, which I thought was like amazing. And I thought that we'd get more of it, not just like one scene at the very end. And you find out then that he's like, all right, I'll be human when you're human, and I'll ride around with you as a beast when you're a hunter, and then everything will be great. And it was just like the weirdest resolution to their story. I don't know where they go from there. I feel like Karen just like wrapped up their entire story in one like fell swoop, which obviously hunters are the only thing that can kill beasts. So I'm like, so is she gonna accidentally or purposely eventually kill him, or like how does that work out? I don't know. I'm glad that they had their ending, and it wasn't a perfect ending, because I hate when authors do like a perfect ending, especially with complex characters like this. But I thought it ended perfectly, where she still achieves what she wanted to achieve as a person, and then in her personal like romantic life. Raiden was super cute through the whole thing. I really want to hear more about Lore. I know I'm not the only person that cares about him after like reading reviews, so that would be great if the next book we see a little bit more of them. And then figure out what the heck is going on with Mac, pretty much, since she's like a fake queen now. So I don't know. I know this has been super rambly and this video is like 20 minutes long, but there was so much, and it really was just so good. I was very hesitant in the beginning because of everybody being gone. I hope that in the next book we still get to see a lot of their relationship, especially because you find out, finding out that he got that message from her, which you find out at the end of the book that she sent, and then Shazam sent it back 3,000 years ago. So he'd been waiting for Dani for like 3,000 years. I can't believe I almost forgot to go over this part. And could like smell her on the rocks, and when he smelled her as a 14-year-old, that was the attraction. And I thought that was really important that Karen made her readers feel better by that, because I've read online a lot of people that were conflicted about really liking the relationship but feeling like it was wrong. I feel like that she helped resolve that, which was really good. And then it ends up that like the amount of time from when she sent the rock and he got it to when she actually became a hunter was like the numeric pi. I thought it just, the whole thing was like mind-blowing. By the way, it was 10 books in. I was wrong. I said 6 or 8. 10 books in. Dani's a stinking hunter. She's with Raiden. Mac's a freaking fairy queen. And everything is nuts. And I cannot wait for the next book to come out. It was great. So, highly recommend it. 5 out of 5 stars, of course. Anything she writes, I'll probably always say that. So, go out and get it. Let me know if you liked it or didn't like it and what you thought was, you know, the best or the worst part of the book down below. And that's it. This has been like the longest video, and I'm so sorry, but I had a lot to go over on it. So subscribe. I'm gonna be doing a lot more videos hopefully, and then let me know if you have any book suggestions. I'm kind of in a book slump right now, unless it's one of my favorite authors comes out with something new, which is only once a year if I'm lucky. And so I mean, yeah, any book recommendations, I'm always loving. Any music recommendations, anything, please feel free. I'll put all my social media down in the description. And other than that, I will see you guys later. Don't forget to do what you did, guys. Bye.